Hello and welcome. Good afternoon to all. So much for joining us for this EU GPP Helpdesk webinar on preserving water through public procurement. So as we all know here, public procurement represents 14% of the EU GDP. And today we'll look at how water, which is an incredibly important resource in Europe. So as we all know, we need water for agriculture, for different industries, also for human well-being. So this webinar will explore how water, through different means, can be preserved, not only in terms of water quality, but also in terms of quantity and how it can increase Europe's resilience to climate change, floods, and droughts. So we have a brief introduction and welcome for you. Then we'll ask you a few introductory questions to get a bit of your insights from the participants on this very important topic. Then we will have our panelists giving different presentations, and we should have a few minutes at the end for your Q&A. So during this webinar, you have a Q&A function that you can use to ask questions to our different speakers. So please use that and we'll pick them up at the end during the Q&A session. So I'm very pleased to welcome our speakers today. So first we have Ivan Azevedo from DG Environment at the European Commission, who will give us a general introduction to what is the EU GPP Helpdesk and the different services we offer. Then we have Caroline Wiley, who's an expert at the European Environment Agency, who will give us an overview of the state of water in Europe report, the state of the different ecosystems and aquifers. Then we have Andrea Sabadini from the Lazio region in Italy, who we're pleased to have. He will give some examples of how the region has used criteria to reduce water consumption and preserve water resources in that way. And then we're also very pleased to have Annette Svensson from the Swedish National Agency for Public Procurement in Sweden, who will explain what are criteria that could be used to promote safety in water and reduce the impact of substances in water uses. And then we have Gonzalo Di Cini Vieira from the city of Lisbon, who will give an example of a big infrastructure project that the city is currently building and has procured to increase its resistance to floods and droughts. So this webinar will explore water from these different perspectives, and I think it will be interesting to have this combination of speakers today. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Ivan for a brief introduction to the EU GPP Helpdesk. So good afternoon, Ivan.
Good afternoon, Elena. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm terribly sorry, but my video is not working. My camera is not working. I don't know why. But well, from my side, also very warm welcome to today's webinar on preserving water through public procurement. Thank you all for joining. We in the Commission, we are delighted. I'm delighted to see. I see the list of participants, and I'm delighted to see such a diverse audience coming together from public authorities, procurement officials, policymakers, and experts. I guess from all over Europe. All with the shared interest in promoting more sustainable water use. As you said, Elena, water is one of the most precious resources, and as you said, we are facing increasing pressure for climate change, pollution, and unsustainable consumption. And public procurement can indeed have a key role to play in addressing these challenges, not only by encouraging water-efficient products and services, but also by setting a precedent for sustainable infrastructure and practices that protect our water ecosystems. This webinar is part of awareness campaigns the GPP Helpdesk organize. We normally organize 4 webinars a year. This, as Elena said, is the first one. But I would like to call your attention that we do more than webinars, actually. I would invite you, and unfortunately my camera is not working, so I guess I cannot share my screen. I don't know if you, Elena, I send you my presentation. I don't know if it is possible for you to share it.
Let me do it right now.
Just to help colleagues to go through. So, but I wanted to say that there is, so it's not only the webinars the GPP Helpdesk organizes. We have a website with information on GPP that I invite you to visit. There you will find a full set of voluntary EU GPP criteria, plus reference to legislation adopted, and also EU ecolabel manuals. So ecolabel manuals helping procurers to use the EU ecolabel in public procurement. You will also find in our website an updated GPP training toolkit, more than 150 GPP examples. Of course, you can find in the website news and information on upcoming events, and also some interesting publications like the Buying Green Handbook and the Circular Procurement brochure. I take the opportunity also to invite you to subscribe to the GPP News Alert and also to the Public Procurement Gazette. Unfortunately, I had in my presentation the links for you, but I guess we can distribute this later. And of course, if you need assistance, sometimes people are not aware, the GPP Helpdesk is there for you to reply to your questions. So you can send emails to the help desk, or you can even call the help desk asking for assistance. Another important thing I would like to highlight is the public buyers community platform that you can also find online. I'm inviting also you to subscribe to this platform. You will see that there are already a lot of communities of practices and their members on different, very diverse topics. And this is it from my side, Elena. And over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivan. This is interesting to know and share with participants, and all the slides will be shared with all the participants through CIRCAB, our online platform in the EU GPP Helpdesk, so we can share the links after this webinar so they can find other information from all our speakers. So to get us started, we have a Metimeter. So I'm assuming that most participants would know how to use it. So you either, if you have access to a smartphone, could scan this QR code, or open a new tab in your computer to and go to meti.com and use the code on your screen. So 86923898 to enter the Meti. So let me open the screen for this. And we'll outside the poll in a second. There it is. So we have 2 questions for you today, and we would like the opinion of the audience on this. So you still have the QR code and the screen. So the first question we want to ask you is like, what kind of water-related challenges do you know of or face in your region or organization? So if you're a private company, it can be in your region, also public authorities. So we see pollution is a big one. Issues around climate mitigation, flooding. Yeah, flooding is a big one on the screen. Scarcity. Also seeing, like, I guess people from the Netherlands are saying living under the water level. Pesticides. Also misinformation. That's an interesting one, you see. So I guess maybe some debate around water or not knowing. I'll give you a few more minutes to add your thoughts to this. But so we can see that there's a whole different range of issues that different cities or regions across Europe are facing. And I know that some of you are also not from Europe, but interesting to see. So I also see that one of our participants have put decreasing biodiversity, so the impact of water on nature, security. Yeah. So yeah, we have 92 responses. So I think this gives us a nice picture. The poll will still be open the rest of the webinar. But yeah, this gives us quite a broad picture that there's a range of issues that concern our water resources in Europe. So now moving on to the second question. According to you, maybe in your own words, how do you think that public procurement can help to mitigate some of these water-related challenges? So it could be the one that you mentioned in your poll, or it could be like in general or based on the answers you've seen on the screen. So I'll give you a few more minutes to answer this. Also, as mentioned before, the recording and the presentation of this webinar, as well as these results from the Metimeter, will be made available after the webinar. So you can always go through them and see on CIRCAB. So we see that the standards and criteria are important. The procurement of water efficient technologies, eco labels as well. So we see a mix of procurement tools, but also real world tools like infrastructure and products. Minimum criteria for consumption and disposal. Upgrade pipelines for alternative farmers where it comes from, issues with pollution. So we see that there's a range of potential solutions that could exist, and that procurement is actually quite a powerful tool that could be leveraged to address some of these water-related challenges. I'll give you a few more minutes to answer. We see also that one of the participants put ensuring transparency and digitalization, links to accelerated planning, or maybe how to manage a urban area or spaces. Shift from profit-oriented to environmental and citizen-oriented procurement approach. So yes, thanks all for your responses. I can still see that more people are including their responses in the poll. I'll keep the poll open in the background, but due to the fact that we have quite a few speakers today and quite a tight schedule, I'll stop sharing my screen here, but all the results will be shared. And thanks a lot to our participants for sharing these insights. And now, without further ado, I'll hand over to Dr. Caroline Winley from the European Environment Agency for her overview of the State of Water report. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll let you share your screen now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see it in the right format?
Yes. It's full screen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. So I'm here, and I'm going to talk to you today about the State of Water report that we released at the end of in October 2024, and this is like our every sort of 6 years we produce a report, considering the overall state of water, and the subtitle this year was "The Need for Improved Water Resilience." I'm going to give you some outputs from that and sort of explain those as much as I can at the time. But just before I go there, those who aren't familiar with EEA, we're an agency of the European Union, but we have a membership that's wider than the EU. It also includes EFTA and cooperating countries, as well as Turkey. So we represent 38 countries, and we have kind of an information role. We're not a regulator. We are a sort of science and information role. We work with the countries. That they support us with data and an expert review, and we put that information together to produce overall reports such as the state of water. We use those reports, for example, to inform policy implementation, particularly at EU level, but others can use it. And we use this to assess systemic challenges. So this is our general role. So the state of water, which is largely some of the evidence, quite a bit I'm going to show you today, is based on reporting under the Water Framework Directive. So this is by the EU member states and Norway. What it is, it's the largest assessment on the health of Europe's waters. And the sort of take-home messages are that Europe's water is under significant pressure. It's presenting serious challenges to water security, both now and in the future. And Europe urgently needs to improve its resilience and ensure sustainable freshwater supplies, both for people and the environment. These are if you don't remember anything else from today, please remember this and think about it as you do your work. One of the issues that gives us concern is around water stress. Okay, so every year water stress is affecting 30% of Europe's territory and 34% of the population. And in this map on the left-hand side, you can see water scarcity conditions in river basins. Where it's dark brown, it's over 40% of the year, and that shows that the area rather, and that means that citizens will know about it because there'll be things like hosepipe bans and these sorts of things. So you can see, yes, it's a problem in Southern Europe, but it's not limited to Southern Europe. Even up into places in Northern Europe, we're getting these sorts of issues. Now, moving to what we got from the Water Framework Directive reporting, the short answer is we're not meeting EU targets, which was 100% good by 2015. So what we learned in 2021, 38% of surface waters are in good or better ecological status. Okay, and then 30% were in good chemical status. So this is the surface waters. So you can see surface waters are not in a good state, given the target is 100. In groundwater, the picture looks a bit better. 91% is reported as being in good quantitative status, and 78% of the area is in good chemical status. Now you'll see that we don't quite, this sort of cheery picture for groundwater doesn't quite match the water stress information we have, but this is what's been reported by countries to us. And I should say it's about over 4 million square kilometres of groundwater, and there's about nearly 100,000 surface water bodies that have been reported. And you can see this in the maps. So just turning those figures, those sort of high-level figures I've just showed you, the percentages, what's that look like in a map? So you maybe a bit more identify a country here. So here's the ecological status. So this is 38% in good. And the way to understand this map is if it's dark blue, it's nearly all in good status. Okay, nearly all good ecological status. If it's red, it's nearly all or all in poor ecological status. Say it's blue getting paler, it's less good. Okay, so what we can see is, in the mostly in the more remote areas, the ecological status is better, but in large parts of Europe, ecological status isn't so good. So this means that the plants and animals that should be living in the habitats can't live there. Okay, that's the sort of short way to understand that. If you move to the right, same coding for the legend, chemical status of surface waters. It's a slightly different picture. Basically, there's a large area of Central Europe and Northern Europe reported as being in poor, 100% poor chemical status, and this is mainly owed to mercury and brominated flame retardants. And we assume this is all coming, certainly for mercury it is coming from diffuse atmospheric pollution. Okay, so it's not a pipe coming from a pipe somewhere, not into the water, it's coming from the atmosphere. And once these persistent chemicals are out in the environment, there's very little we can do with it when it's that sort of coverage. The other outer regions of Europe, and maybe they report a bit differently, but that's not reported to be quite such a serious situation. The groundwater, so this quantitative status, if you remember, this was like 91% good. You can see most of Europe is reported in good quantitative status. Still some areas, mainly in southern Europe, but also some areas even in southern Sweden that don't have such good quantitative status. So that's water resources, if you like. And the chemical status, a bit more mixed. Basically, the whole of sort of Central and Southern Europe, certainly Western Europe, is affected in terms of water quality of groundwater. When under the Water Framework Directive, you measure the status or the quality, and that's what we've just been looking at. If you've got poor quality, you have to, or poor status, you have to say, well, what's causing that? And that causes is called a pressure. Okay, so what are the major pressures that countries reported to us as being on surface waters? Well, more than half of surface water is affected by diffuse air pollution, so that's like the mercury and the brominated flame retardants as we understand it, but also by this natural flow and function. And in the terminology of that directive, it's hydromorphology. What this means is where you've got the natural flow of a river, for example, and then there's drained, or it's got a dam across it, or it's got made flood protection, hard flood protection. So basically, the animals and plants that should be able to live in that habitat, they can't live there because the water doesn't function as it used to do. So this is obviously difficult because people put in hard infrastructure and things going in, or drain the land for agriculture, whatever it might be, and that's sort of in the system. That has got a significant impact on the quality of Europe's surface waters. And then about a third is affected by diffuse agricultural pollution, and we can compare that to point source pollution. So that's be like coming out of a pipe, if you like, things like urban wastewater treatment and things like that, industry. So this is the sort of main sources of pollution to surface waters. And on groundwater, the main sources are from diffuse agricultural pollution, it's the main pressure on groundwater, and also from abstraction. And that's using water for industry, for agriculture, and for the public water supply. And of course, all these are important uses. So but this is pretty precious on the water. Taken together, the major pressure on the surface on water in Europe is agriculture, because of its effects both on surface waters and on groundwater. Okay, and particularly around abstraction and diffuse pollution, and the pollution, particularly around nutrients and pesticides. In this map on the right, we did an analysis, and this is showing groundwater bodies in poor chemical status with diffuse pollution, okay, from agriculture. And you can see that really a large area of Europe is affected in terms of groundwater by agricultural pollution. So we need agriculture, we need food, but actually we need something that's more sustainable. And we sort of made some sort of high-level comments in this particular report about changing farming practice to ensure continued productivity, but whilst also reducing pollution and adapting to lower water use. I'm sure you're aware climate change is making water management more challenging, and that floods and droughts are expensive both in terms of people but also financially, and that we can get some really catastrophic events when we get climate change impacts and pollution. We can think about the Oder River, things like that. I'm skipping along here for time reasons. Now, in the report, we try to sort of say, well, okay, this is the situation, it's not so great, what can we do about it? And in this infographic, I just want to show you, it's kind of a high-level view, and I'm going to go into some more in a minute. Just if you understand, this is like a river basin district, okay? So, and there's some sort of big-scale things that could be done, okay? For example, restoring floodplains and wetlands, okay? So that helps to deal with biodiversity, but can also help in terms of managing water. So you can store water in wet periods and release it in dry periods. It can help lower the peak flow when you've had intense rainfall. So there's sort of things you can do at catchment scale, right? It's obviously farming, and there's connectivity, improving the rivers so that fish and things can get through the rivers that help biodiversity. And then and also expanding and protecting habitats, for aquatic species. And then we'll get into the others in some of these other charts and we'll just show you. So then if we think about pollution, the main thing with pollution is if you can prevent it, that's much easier to prevent it in the sense of the alternative, which is cleaning it up. Okay, once something's out in the environment, once a pollutant is out in the environment, it's very difficult to get it back usually, and it's much more expensive. So reduce pollution and use cleaner energy sources. Now, some of you may be aware that the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive has just been revised, and there's going to be lots more activity required for improving quality of wastewater. But it doesn't all have to be, so you can do it intensively, because water's a local thing. Sometimes you've got space, but you haven't got much money, in which case you might want to go for things like a reed bed solution. All right. Sometimes you haven't got much space and you've got a dense population, you need to deal with a large amount of wastewater. So that would be improving the treatment at a wastewater treatment plant to deal with the pollutants in that population. So treating this effectively is important. And non-connected dwellings, I was checking this morning, so about 7% or 8% of surface waters are affected by pollution, diffuse pollution from non-connected dwellings. So this is reported to us by countries. So it's dwellings, houses where they're not connected to the public water, the wastewater treatment, and they've got septic tanks or they've got individual systems, and they're not necessarily working very well. So they're getting pollution of often groundwaters, but also surface waters by these non-connected dwellings. And this is it's a small but significant source, and then in local areas it can be very significant. This treatment of storm waters, so if you more intense rainfall, you need to treat the storm waters, because otherwise they go straight out into the environment without any treatment. And one of the things we're keen to promote is where it's appropriate, nature-based solutions such as reed beds, wastewater treatment, because they're quite low intensity. Okay, they can be quite effective in the right area. And then we've got some other suggestions around farming, which I won't go into here. And then water scarcity and drought. And this, you saw sort of my third slide, which showed you the state of water scarcity, which is really significant. So we need to be thinking about measures to deal with that. And so there's a mixture of things here. There's things around natural water retention measures, green infrastructure, swales, and floodplain restoration. So the floodplains, this is maybe more catchment scale type activities. But also, in the towns, putting in swales and putting in ways to sort of absorb the water. But then we've also got demand management. Okay, so if people are paying for the water, or they're metered, the water's metered, then maybe they get more curious about how the water's being used and making sure it's not leaking. So demand management, we feel, can be can be an important way to save water, relatively speaking, without so much harm. Because of course you've got to put in the measures to sort of to monitor and to use the water more efficiently, but it's not actually necessarily affecting people's use indirectly, and it may be less painful than not having to have water restriction measures. And then there's things around water reuse and rainwater harvesting and things like this, which you can do if you've got sponge cities and those sorts of activities, which can help you to store the water, slow it getting to the rivers and causing floods, but also storing the water for dry periods. So there's a range of activities, and it all kind of depends on your local situation. Okay. But I just thought you might be interested in a few of the case studies we included in the report. In terms of a sort of big scale restoration project, the Pärnu River Basin in Estonia, where there's over 3,000 kilometers of river systems reconnected. So what was going on here was that there was an old industrial, a big dam that was stopping the water flowing as it did. The industry had declined; it was not longer sort of providing employment and so forth. And there was a big program of work, and basically they got rid of the dam and they've turned it into a tourism and water sports and nature kind of destination. So that's a way to sort of turn a whole kind of region, regional level, to change the approach. And then we've got an example for Puglia, where the water is being unsustainably abstracted by farmers for irrigation, and so they're working with the wastewater utility to work with the farmers so that they could, and also the authorities, to make sure that the quality standards are met, to use that, reuse the water from the wastewater treatment plant rather than using the abstracting from the groundwater. So it reduces the pressure on groundwater resources. Oh, sorry. Let me quick. Another interesting one was with is down in Rennes, and obviously it's also there are there's examples in Paris as well, for example. But this is where the water utility was working with farmers upstream to try and protect, improve the water quality that was getting to the city because it was very poor quality from agricultural pollution. And then the city got involved and basically ended up with a collaboration, so that if by working by farmers reducing their impact on water quality to help the water utility, that gave them access to bidding for contracts in the city's public canteens. So so it was making it financially, attractive for farmers to sort of improve water quality, and in that way also, helps the water quality and the utilities to reduce their treatment requirements. And then here's an example of a swales where there's a new housing development. The swales, so drainage ponds that were linked up to catch water when it was intense rainfall and stop it, slow the flow. But then there was infiltrated, so that then it was available when in drier periods, so that it could then be released slowly over time. We like these are sort of ways, you're looking at different sorts of problems and then coming up with solutions that hit several sorts of benefits for people and the environment. So the sort of short answer about what can we do? Well, it's reducing water use, preventing pollution, reusing water where you need to use it, but improve circularity with that. And then the sort of big scale is restoring rivers, floodplains and wetlands, and really particularly for water retention and for biodiversity. So to remind, Europe's water is under significant pressure, presenting serious challenges to water security now and in the future. We urgently need to improve resilience and ensure sustainable freshwater supplies for people and the environment. And if you want to know more, the links in these talk work. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Dr. Wali. Very interesting presentation, and good to remind us of the pressure that we have and the water resources and how it relates to resilience, pollution, climate change, and touches on several environmental issues. So very interesting to have this perspective. So thanks a lot for your presentation. I saw that you already included some case studies. Now we'll turn to our next speaker, who will give us a case study on how to reduce water, as you mentioned in your presentation, Dr. Wali. So I'll call on Andrea Savadini. Yes, you can share your screen. So thanks for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Okay.
I cannot yet see the screen, and your mic is quite low. I don't hear you very well.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Hi to all. I am Andrea Sabadini, and I work as manager into region of Lazio, so a regional entity. I've been the head manager of a regional procurement body in the previous 4 years. And today I will introduce our experience, so the experience of a region of Lazio into GPP. And in particular, we will talk about how to preserve water through public procurement. In this presentation, we will first of all introduce our global vision about GPP, and in particular the implementation of this instrument into our tender procedure. Then we will talk about a specific project, the project Oxygen, the oxygen project, and in particular about the water saving criteria applied into this tender. Finally, we will talk about water saving criteria about another procurement action, another tender related to washing and dry cleaning services in healthcare. First of all, I want to introduce the general vision of region of Lazio about GPP. Our goal is to search to innovate procurement models, seeking sustainable and green solution to mitigate the environmental impact of procured goods, services, and works. With the introduction of GPP, we want to innovate in three different dimensions. The first, we want to introduce a regulatory tool to promote green practices into the market. Secondary, we want to launch an institutional message to the market with the aim to stimulate the market to promote by itself autonomous policy into this direction. And finally, we want to create a benchmark and stimulate a sort of waterfall effect, encouraging other public entities to use these criteria. This final point for us is really important, and we have had this lesson in our experience. In fact, we have understood that the benchmark role of a regional procurement body is really important. In 2020, we introduced first in our country GRPP criteria, so gender responsive public procurement, and another dimension of the strategic procurement in the absence of a national framework. And after our experience, a lot of other entities replied our experience, and the GRPP criteria has been then introduced into the national framework. So also a regional body can innovate and stimulate also national body to work into specific criterion. How we try to implement our GPP strategy? We work both on minimum requirements with the goal to set up a base standard, and on award criteria with the goal to enhance the green qualities of procured goods and services. In relation to minimum standards, we work both on minimum environmental criteria required by regulation and additional green requirements concerning the qualification and the selection of the players and the technical specification. Furthermore, we use award criteria trying to evaluate a higher standard of green quality. In relation to some contracts, I'm thinking in particular about car rental contracts, we have tried to adopt life cycle assessment to measure the environmental impact of a product through every phase of its life. Now we talk about the project Ossigeno, the oxygen project. Within the global context of the Lazio Green program, in 2019 we launched the Progetto Ossigeno. The project has the aim, the goal to plant 6 million trees, one for each citizen of the region, ensuring to the CO2 absorption capacity, generating a cooling effect in urban areas, and strengthening mitigation efforts against intense rain events. We decided to act to play a central role through the procurement strategy. In fact, we opted for a centralized procurement process, and then we distributed the assets to the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are public and private institutions that then needs to manage the trees planted. The tender applied a mix of green criteria in the technical specification and in the award criteria. We decided to award these contracts with the most economically advantageous tender. So balance of best price and quality ration, which was weighted 20 and 80. Within the broader framework of this oxygen project, the tender embedded several sustainability criteria, and with the particular topic of water saving award criterion, we decided to give up to 4 points to the provision of water saving and water resource rationalization techniques and technologies, such as rainwater collection systems or other high efficiency solution. And it's important to discuss how the market response replied to our proposal. In their technical proposal, the economic operators has introduced several water-saving solutions, including the provision of technical and technological system to improve irrigation efficiency, such as subsurface irrigation system, and other kind of solution like rainwater harvesting system for irrigation reuse, rain sensors to reduce irrigation needs during rainfall, and water audits to detect potential leaks or malfunctions in existing system. So this kind of solution consented to the public and private entity that needed to manage these trees in the time to have some useful instruments for monitoring the needs of these the water needs of these plants. But this is not the only experience of region of Lazio concerning water saving criteria. As I told you in my introduction, we have already applied this kind of criteria in another tender related to the healthcare sector, and in particular this tender is related to sustainable washing and dry cleaning services for the regional healthcare services. Also, in this case, we have used a mix of instruments, some related to technical specification, and in particular, we provided that the plant for the execution of the laundry service must be provided with water filtering and water reusage systems. And in particular, we have also introduced a maximum of 3 points related to water saving award criteria. Up to 1 point was given for the possession of water footprint certification in order to assess and evaluate the environmental impact of a certain product related to water consumption. And up to 2 points were given to the implementation to 2 or more of the following water saving measures. Installation of new washing machine with water recovery mechanism or inverter, installation of device for the reduction of water pollution, and the installation of water and electricity counters, with the goal to optimize the water consumption. So what we have learned about our experience based on the experience of implementing this kind of instruments and practices. In our opinion, the following main challenges and opportunities can be identified as the segment. We believe that also the private sector can innovate. And it's important for the public administration to encourage the dialogue between contracting authorities and economic operator to detect innovation and emerging trends. At the same time, it is important to use the emerging technologies and artificial intelligence that for sure will impact also in sustainability. I think about the opportunity in advanced capability of monitor the water consumption and providing water efficient solutions. At the same time, the public procurement need to keep up with market and technology development in order to shape a public procurement process that can stimulate innovation and sustainability. Thank you for the time that you gave me, and I leave the word to Elena.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Very interesting presentation and great to see these very practical case studies. So we're moving on with our next speaker, Annette Svensson from the Swedish Public Procurement Authority. Thanks so much for being here. So you'll tell us about the criteria you use to reduce pollutants in water. So I can see your screen. We just need full screen. Thanks a lot. And I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you, Helena, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here today. I will start with saying a few words about the National Agency for Public Procurement in Sweden. We are an authority founded in 2015. We have our 10th anniversary this autumn, and we have about 70 employees with a broad range of specialist skills. And in procurement, we assist by sharing intelligence, offering services and support, and using collaboration and influence to raise awareness of the power of public procurement. And our vision is sound public business for a sustainable future. One example of the support is our sustainability criteria that we developed to facilitate and support procuring organizations and the suppliers. These criteria are voluntary to use, and they're found in our criteria service on our website. The criteria go beyond legislation, and they are legally quality reviewed. We have criteria on 3 different levels of requirements: core, advanced, and spirit. And the levels reflect the need for resources to set requirements and to follow up on them. And levels can also reflect the market availability of products. And the criteria, besides the requirements, they include a proposal for verification and how to follow up on the requirements. One product area where we have criteria that can affect water quality is chemical technical products. And some examples of chemical products that ends up in the water are detergent products for indoor cleaning, dishwasher and hand dishwashing detergents, and laundry detergents. And some examples of cosmetic products are some rinse-off products like soap, hair care products, shaving cream, toothpaste, and leave-on products like creams. And all these products can create problems when they enter the water. Our criteria, they set requirements on chemical substances, either on their properties or as a requirement on the individual substance or substance group. And in the criteria, we have requirements regarding the following properties that can cause negative environmental impact on water quality. The first is if they are toxic. Products or substances in the products that have either acute or long-lasting effects on aquatic life. Another is persistence, or products that have a low biodegradability. This means that the substances can't be degraded or degrade very slowly in the environment. The result is that they persist in the environment for a very long time. And some of these persistent substances are also bioaccumulative, which means that they accumulate in an organism, and this can lead to an increase in concentration at successively higher levels in a food chain. Another property is if the substance is endocrine disrupting. That means that it affects the hormonal system and can cause harmful effects in aquatic life. So we have criteria with requirements on these properties, but we also have several problematic substances or substance groups that are difficult to exclude with only general requirements on properties. So there's also a need to set additional requirements to restrict some specific substances and substance groups. And some of them are substances on the REACH candidate list. Substances that with properties that may cause serious and lasting effects on human health and on the environment. We have requirements on hypochlorites and organic chlorine compounds. Difficult to pronounce this. These substances are persistent accumulate and have a very high toxicity to aquatic organisms. We also have requirements on biocides, where an overuse risks leading to resistance, and when there is no need for a disinfectant effect, you should avoid biocidal products. I also have two substances here with only their short names. They have very long chemical names. EDTA is one substance that is not completely biodegraded in the municipal wastewater treatment plants. And there are biodegradable alternatives that can replace EDTA available. So it's not necessary to use to get the effect. And we also have APEO. It's environmentally hazardous and can cause long-term harmful effects in the environment, and can also have endocrine disrupting effects. So all these substances and substance group, we also have criteria with requirements on. One thing that's also very important to minimize emissions to water is dosage instructions to ensure that only the amount necessary of the product is used, because overuse naturally leads to unnecessary emissions to water. In this presentation, I've included all the criteria for chemical and cosmetic products that are relevant to water quality with their requirement identification numbers. So it's easy for you to find them if you want to take a closer look at them later. For chemical products, we have, you see here, 4 requirements, and on the core level and 3 on the advanced level. And that's not all our requirements, all our criteria. This is the criteria related to water quality. And the same for cosmetic products. We have 2 on the core level and 3 on the advanced level that are related to water quality. And in my last picture, I included the links to our sustainability criteria on the web, and also direct links to chemical products and cosmetic products. So it's easy for you to find them if you want to take a closer look at them later on.
Thank you so much, Annette. As we have your slides, so we can maybe drop the links directly in the chat for participants if they're interested. It's quite interesting to see how detailed these criteria are and the different aspects to consider, because I didn't know that dosage was such a factor that could become a criteria in public tenders. So very interesting presentation, and thanks for these. I'm sure we have a question. How do you think the public procurement rules could be revised to ensure they drive the future? I know this is a question for of digital water management tools. We see these questions in chat up here. These will be addressed later. So last but not least, we're heading over down to Portugal, where we have a very practical on-the-ground example from Gonzalo Vicini Vieira from the city of Lisbon, who's going to present to us the water drainage system plan that the city is building. I've seen it in person, and I think some of our participants as well, but I'm so excited to hear more about it, and thanks a lot. And have you shared your presentation with the audio or the video later?
Okay. Hello, Elena.
Yes,
Hello,
I can hear
everyone.
you.
I think you already are seeing the sharing of my computer. Is it so? Please confirm.
Yes, I can see.
Okay. We hope everything goes well. If not, my apologies, but I will try very hard to keep my time with these presentations, and then we keep on with the discussion. That's very, very important. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to present the Lisbon Drainage Master Plan from Lisbon City Council. It is the biggest works that Lisbon City Council has already launched, the biggest tender. And it is because of climate change and to deal with water and the damage that water does to the city, to citizens. So I'm Gonçalo Diniz Vieira. I'm a civil engineer, and I'm a deputy coordinator of this team that are launching and planning and working in this Lisbon Drainage Master Plan. Okay, let me see. I will start. We'll talk about the increasing resilience to floods in Lisbon, of course, to protect the city. And why are we doing this? It's very simple. They say that image, it's the same of 1,000 words. A film, it's 1 million words. As you can see, this is some short videos about flooding problems in Lisbon in the last 50 years. These are more recent, these images, and this is real, this happens, and that's why the public, the city council took this problem in its hands and thought about a large plan, a large drainage master plan. It's not only these tunnels that I'm going to present in here, but it takes a lot of what Caroline has said in the first presentation also, where she has highlighted the flood problems, but also the reuse of water for irrigation, cleaning of streets, and other uses. That's very important. So this is why we are doing this is the extreme events in Lisbon, recent event in Lisbon. And Lisbon has 7 hills. Lisbon is a very beautiful town, fortunately. I hope some of you know already. If you're not, I sincerely hope that you will. And because of these 7 hills, the water comes very fast to downtown. And we had already made some reservoirs, as you can see here, Alto da Ajuda and Monsanto, so that we keep infiltration in the beginning where it rains. But that's not enough for this kind of orography in Lisbon. So we have to drill, we have to excavate these 2 tunnels that you are seeing here. Tunnel Monsanto Santa Apollonia, the biggest one, and Tunnel Chalas Beato, the second one with 1 kilometer, so that we take the water that damages the city into the river, directly into the river. But meanwhile, we are also making some internal reservoirs so that we keep the water, so we can reuse the water by pumping inside the tunnels that we are digging. So I think the circularity that has already been talked in this webinar is very present in this project, in this Lisbon Drainage Master Plan. As you can see, this is Lisbon in the ancient, with the Romans, and right now this is Lisbon right now, actual, with very beautiful places, but infiltration, as you can see, is not very good as it was in the past. So climate change has already been talked about. It is becoming more extreme, more storm waters with a short period of time, and increases the damages and the flood problems. What's our solution? The solution for this kind of extreme water that damages the city is the construction of two big tunnels with 5.5 internal diameter. The first one with 5 kilometers, this is the cross section, and the second one with 1 kilometer. And how do they work? They catch the water of the basins before the water comes into the downtown. As you can see here, this tunnel, this principal tunnel, that's what we are digging. It caches with some shafts that we are making in the middle of town. I'm going to show you some pictures of that also. It caches the water, and then it takes the water from the downtown, where it damages the downtown, because we have a downtown phase in Lisbon that has a lot of monuments near the river, but we have to protect this. This is the plant of the tunnels. And how do they work? This is the current situation of water in Lisbon right now, with the two big wastewater treatment plants, Alcântara and Chelas. And how will it be with the constructions of the two tunnels? It will be like this. The water that are going to the wastewater treatment is water that wastewater treatment can deal with. The water that it's too much, that damages the city, goes directly to the river, but we have it's not going to be polluted, because we have a reservoir that catches all the substances that are in the water. So we are going to build 3 shafts in the middle of the town also, and I'm going to show you briefly these works that we are digging. This is the first one that you are seeing. This is where the machine, a TBM machine, enters. This is where I am. I'm working here in Campo Lido. This is another shaft at Avenida Liberdade in the center of the town. In here, another second shaft also in Rua de Santa Marta. And the third shaft in the Avenida Almirante Reis. 3 very critical points where we catch water and put into the biggest tunnel. Then the tunnel ends in the river. And this is Santa Apollonia, where the works are going on, and where we have to pass very, very shortly distance from metro line, but we are taking this challenge. The other tunnel will start in Chelas, in here, and will end also into the river. Will end near Beato. So this is what we are doing to take the water out, to take the water from the city. And here, in here, you have the flood chart, the actual flood chart that in red you have the zones where it's critical from flood problems, and after the construction of the problems, we are going to mitigate between 70 to 80% of these kind of problems in Lisbon. We are talking also about procurement and innovation and sustainability. So what we have in this tender, in these big works, to take care, to have that into account. We have put some recurrence time with 100 year for this project, and we have made a design build tender, so that we have sent to the procurers, to the constructors, an idea, a very good idea with the GBR, geotechnical baseline report, about what we would like to have, and the profile of the tunnels, and they gave us the technique to do so. The TBM machine is one of them. So we start works in the second semester of 2022, and I hope it will end in 2026 but it depends on some factors that we don't control to exactly its archaeology. Lisbon is made, has a lot of history. It's very good to have a lot of history. Archaeology, we have to take that into account when we do these works. We have to mitigate problems during construction. So we use the Berlin criteria. We have made an exhaustive infrastructures investigation also, and use the best practice of ITA, International Tunneling Association, to prepare this standard. Of course, this is the biggest project in Lisbon, and use BIM, Building Information Modeling, in the project, in design phase. We are using in the construction phase, and we will use during maintenance of these tunnels. So we have water, and we close the water cycle, because as you have already said, we are going to reuse water with the help of these tunnels. We are going to reuse water, and we are making some reservoirs, water reservoirs, to reuse water and to put into the middle of the town. How? In here, with this big tunnel, we are going to put some tubs, so that reused water can go into the middle of the town. Water goes down by shaft and goes up reused. And that's it. BIM is very important. BIM is not the future, it's the present. And we are using BIM. We have the very young BIM manager and very interested, and is making a difference in this project. And
in Lisbon, a sustainability project.
I will only show
Lisbon Drainage Master Plan.
This film. You hear?
2 underground tunnels crossing Lisbon's downtown for flood prevention and drainage water reuse. Six kilometers of underground tunnels, 5.5 meters diameter, 5 intersection works, 2 discharge works, water drainage treatment and water drainage reuse, flood mitigation and climate change prevention, surface works spread in different critical city points, tunnels crossing the city center in underground construction using tunnel boring machine method. Need for good communication with stakeholders and citizens. Need for asset management and life cycle management.
I'm going to pass so that I can keep the time, but I think we will be able to see the whole movie that we are going to share. Elena, please, after this presentation. And BIM and GIS integration is very important also for the city council. GIS integration is where existing infrastructure that already exists in town and do not conflict with our tunnels. These have been made with BIM and GIS integration also. So finally, how are the works ongoing? We have started by making this platform and the reservoir. This is the TBM before being launched. This is the pilot that works with this. This is some archaeological works that we have encountered during construction, during excavation. We had to deal with this. We work 24 hours, 7 days per week. And this is how it will be. It's not already completed. With the help of Saint Barbara. Saint Barbara helps all the miners. It's in progress, and we'll finish in 2026, hopefully. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Gonzalo, so much for this presentation overview. And it's like a very impressive example of how a city can build infrastructure for resilience. So a great example of what a city can procure in terms of water solutions. So thanks a lot. Yeah, we have a few people in the chat saying the same. So I think your example has interested different of our colleagues. So now we have a few minutes before the end of the webinar. So if any of our participants have any questions, they can post them to our speakers in the chat and we'll try to respond to them in the next few minutes. I saw a question about the revision of the procurement directives. The GPP Helpdesk is not really in the place for these questions. We have our colleagues from DigiGo and DG Environment on the call as panelists that you can see the questions and could maybe provide a few insights into that, but I don't think that is. I'll ask Marta, do you want to say something? And in the meantime, ask the other panelists too.
I haven't seen the question, so you would have to remind it.
So the question that was asked by one of our participants was, how do you think that public procurement rules could be revised to ensure that they drive the further use of digital water management tools?
Well, we are still in the process of evaluating the existing public procurement directives. So you know that traditionally public procurement was regulated at EU level as to how to buy. Now it changed into what to buy. So there are also product requirements, mandatory ones, because GPP voluntary exists already for a long time. Now it's too early to tell indeed what will be included in the revision. We are, as I started by saying, we are now evaluating the public procurement directives, so rules on how to buy, what to buy. This is something that will be addressed later. We will see whether and how it is included in the revision. But it's much too early to express ourselves on that. I don't know whether it responds sufficiently, but I think this is as much as we can say at that stage. Ivan wants to say something, I think, as well. No.
No, I was just happy that I managed to put my camera on.
That's great. No, thanks, Marta, for this answer. Yeah, and as you said, we're still at the beginning of the process, so I guess these are the kind of ideas and suggestions as DigiGo that you're looking for. We have a question to Annette about whether any of the criteria used by the Swedish Public Procurement Authority are mandatory in nature. Because you spoke about the core and the extent advanced criteria. Can you clarify whether these are compulsory?
We don't use them. We develop the criteria, and the procurement organizations that use them, for them it is voluntary. They can choose whatever. If they want to use them, they can choose not to use them. And the levels has nothing to do with if it's mandatory or not. And we have different criteria or technical specification. We have contract requirements. We have all types of requirements, but none of them are mandatory to use. So it's free for everyone.
Thanks a lot. I think a question I had, because we saw through this discussion and the different presentation that water touches so many sectors. We spoke about agriculture, cleaning products, etc. Maybe a question to our different panelists would be, what would be for you the key sectors where criteria related to water and water management should be made a priority or should be considered more thoroughly by public authorities across Europe? Because we saw, so maybe Dr. Caroline Wally, maybe because you spoke about agriculture in your presentation, are there any other key sectors you would say that are more stressed with water and where public procurers could look at the use of water-related criteria?
Well, I mean, I quite liked the approach that we've seen in this this webinar, which is actually, what the the reach of public sector, because of, if you're running a town or you've got, you're working in an urban area, there's, you've got a lot of citizens there. You might have got some resources because you've got, dense population. You've got a need, clearly identified needs, and it might be water scarcity, it might be drought, it might be too much water, and both, as we know in many areas. And I think, you can get, where you've had, especially we've had floods, we saw that in Copenhagen a few years ago, where you can get the political motivation to do some activity when citizens see there's a real problem. That can be actionable. Politicians can get that, so you can get the hearts, because there's one thing to have the minds, but to get the political will to have to put that investment in, that people have to pay for this investment if it's public. That's a way to sort of trigger and lever these actions to go ahead when they're big scale. But that would be my answer for the moment. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So it's quite holistic. Don't know if any other speakers have any top of mind thoughts about the key sectors that other public authorities should consider when looking at water, or consider water, and maybe not the so obvious usual suspects. Annette?
I mean, I might say that water's a very local thing. So, it's a sector that might be very important in one area, or an issue that's very important in one area or region, it might not be the same somewhere else. So I think, this is where local knowledge and the local ownership is what's really important in terms of what issues need to be prioritised. So you might say the chemicals industry or the digital industry, if they're starting lots of water abstraction for digital cloud services, and that's going to be more salient to certain places than it is to others. It's very, it's like, I can't say one size fits all with water. It really depends on where you are in your situation.
It's true. Very interesting. I see this comment in the chat from Fiona, who says like she's pleasantly surprised by how the Irish water quality is good compared, I guess, to other regions in Europe. So nice to have this comment in the chat. As we're coming towards an end of this webinar, I just wanted to maybe give a few words to Ivan about your reflections about this webinar and some key takeaways that you took from the different presentations.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Elena. Well, I think we got very interesting practical examples and inspiring approaches. And I think it would be what is very important in public procurement is that people get in contact. So it would be very good that people attending this webinar could reach out. I don't know if this will be possible to give the contacts of our panelists to the public if they want to make further questions on your experience. This would be very important. I retained something that in water, in infrastructure works, it's quite important and something to explore. It's the nature-based solutions. Sometimes we don't need to invent a wheel. Nature can help. And I guess more and more member states and contracting authorities are exploring this, but I would invite the participants to look into the nature-based solutions to save this. On your question on priority sectors, well, actually, water is everywhere. So when you buy a product, when you buy clothes, you can use criteria, GPP criteria, to reduce water consumption. So we are not just talking about big infrastructure, but again, water is everywhere. And the sky is the limit to invent technical specifications and award criteria to preserve water. So thank you all for attending.
May I just add one thing, not as a conclusion, because I, in the last presentation, there was it was mentioned BEAM. And then Ivan mentioned the importance of cooperation. And something that Ivan mentioned in his introductory speech is this cooperation the Commission is organizing. We are having this public buyers community platform on which we have different communities of practice. So these are stakeholders working together in specific area of public procurement. And one of such communities of practice is one working on BEAM in public procurement. So if you are interested, I encourage you to join. You can also see other subjects because that can be really a good way of working with the others if you have something to share from your side and you would want to learn. So I really encourage you to have a look into that.
Thank you, Ivan and Marta. I think this is the end of our time, so I want to thank all our speakers, so Ivan, Dr. Caroline Wali, Andrea, Annette, and Gonzalo for your time and presentations, and to all our participants for taking time to tune in and listen. So I think it was a very interesting, for me, quite very informative and interesting presentation. And you see that there's so many aspects of water that we could look at, and it's not just about water for the sake of water, it's about climate change and adaptation and nature-based solutions as well. So thanks to you all. And before we leave, you can always subscribe to the GPP Helpdesk. The links have been included in the chat. And we are organizing a webinar every quarter. So the next one will be in June. So stay tuned and subscribe to the newsletter for more information. So I wish you all a good afternoon and thank you all for your time. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.